Hello everybody and welcome to another exciting episode of Tekkit Tutorials. Today I will be covering the force field, mostly because it's kind of confusing on how everything works because everything has to be in a very specific spot. And the tutorials I saw out there were kind of complicated. So, let's get started. First thing we have to do is cover where the power for the force field is coming from. And to do that, you need two blocks. You need the EU injector and the force field core. Now, these have to be placed in a very specific way. Obviously, the EU injector needs to be attached to an EU source, which this is just going to my MFSU bank over there. And then you can turn it on with a lever. Now, it's not going to do anything right now because we don't have a core attached to it. Now, if we take the core and attach it to, say, the side, it looks like it turns on, but we're not actually getting power. So, fair warning there. What you have to do is put it on top. You have to put it on top or it does not work. But once you do that, now we're getting power. And lots of it. Okay, so now that we have a source of power, let's actually look at the upgrades real quick for here. For example, we see a transmit range of 8. That's supposed to be 8 blocks. Now, as of right now, as of this update, it's a glitch. This doesn't actually mean anything, at least as far as I can tell. I have put the actual emitters way out there, and they still work without any kind of upgrade. But once they do fix that upgrade, this is the block you need. This is what it looks like, and it is the range extender upgrade. So you just attach that to the side, and we can see that we doubled it. We attach another one, and we added 16 more. We doubled it again. And we can add them on the corners here too. And we add it and we go up to 64. So we're doubling every time. It's exponential growth, which is awesome. But now here's a trick. You can't put it on top. On top doesn't work. You can put them on the sides, the entire way around the sides, and we get a max of 2048, which is huge. But that's it. We cannot put it on the top. We cannot put it on the sides. We cannot put them out here and have them work. They won't work. So that's it. Just 3x3 with the core in the center. That's it. That's as big as it gets. Oh, and we also can't pop any blocks while it's active. So we have to turn it off. And then we can start tearing things down. Which is a neat little function. Hang on, I need to make it daytime. Like magic! Woo! Okay, another upgrade. We can see in here that we have 10 million EU of power to work with. And that's cool. But we can upgrade it with an EU upgrade block. Now we can see we have more space, but we're not gaining power. Now the question is, it's because it was off. It's because I had it turned off before. Now, let's see how many we can attach. Oop, well, that's a no. We can see the little green dot showed up here. It's not showing up here, so that means that that won't work. So it's probably just like the range extenders. We could probably only put them on the sides. Oh wow, 26 million EU. That's a lot. Yeah. Can't put them on the top. That doesn't work. Also can't pop them while it's active. Can only pop them while it's... Oh wow, I can't pop them anymore at all. Did this turn back on? Oh, I know why I can't pop them. No, that works. I probably don't have enough power in my wrench. That's something you gotta watch out for when you're working with these things, if you don't have enough power in your wrench. If you use an electric wrench. If you use one of the regular ones, you just have to worry about it breaking. Okay, so now that we have a source of power, let's work on where we're putting it. So, we have multiple types of projectors. We have the area projector, we have the directional, deflector, and a tube. So, let's switch over to these ones, and we'll go through and see what they all do. Now, the first thing we need to do, we put it down, and all of these are activated by redstone signal. So we have to have a lever or some form of redstone signal source. So like if you use one of the remote redstone controllers, that'll work for you too. But obviously right now, nothing happens because we're not linked to a generator. Now, how do we link to a generator? Well, what we need is a card. Specifically the blank MFS card. Now these are relatively simple to make. You know, nice electronic circuit, bunches of paper. And to use them, first thing you want to do is make sure that the card is in your bar. Because when you click here, you don't have access to the rest of your inventory. So we put it in here. It changes the card, so we can see that it has the yellow block there now. That's how we know it's written to. And then we just run over here, put the card in here, and now we're connected. In fact, not only are we connected, we can see how much power we have access to. Alright, so let's see what this thing does first. Click. Oh, and there we go. We have a force field. An unbreakable force field, by the way. Even if you switch over to creative mode, you cannot break through it. Now, an added feature with this area projector, if we dig down, we can see that the force field continues down. In fact, it continues down below bedrock, and I'd rather not pop the bedrock. So this basically gives us a 360-degree force field. Let's turn that off. We'll put the blocks back. Now we can also change this so that it's a sphere. So if we turn it on, we can kind of see that it's more spherical shaped. Like this one, this block's further out. This block's further in. It's easier to see if you increase the size. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. It's not terribly easier to see, but you might be able to see that it's basically built like a sphere. But let's cover the next one before we get into upgrades. This is the directional projector. Now, you'll notice that this is pointing that way. You can use the wrench to change which direction it's pointing, just like the MFSUs and the transformers. You just need to use your wrench. Now, we'll pull the card out of here. We'll put the card in here, and it's connected. We'll increase this length, just to show off. And we'll throw a lever on there, and then we can see that it just makes a pillar of force field. Now, the settings in here, the length is obviously the length. The bigger this is, the longer it will go. The distance is actually the distance away from the projector the force field will start. So let's say we put this at 3, and we turn this on. We see that there are 3 blocks of air and then the 6 blocks of force field. Now, if you watched my castle tour video, you'll know that this is how I use my door. I actually have it set to... Oh, you can't change those settings while it's active. I have it set like this, exactly like this. So there's a block of stone brick here, then underneath it is the force field, and then 3 blocks of force field. Now I have them hidden, but I will show that upgrade later. Let's move on to the next one. We have the... what is this thing called again? Deflector. Okay, so we got a deflector. So what does a deflector do? Now, if you just go by the name, and this is what I thought it was, if you just go by the name, it sounds like it deflects the force field. Like you could have one of these force fields active and this counteracts it. But it doesn't. See, we got a force field block here. So if we turn this off, let's crank up the distance a little bit. Increase the width, and we can see we actually have a wall now. And that's pretty much what these settings are. This is one direction, this is the other direction, and this is how far away from the projector that it is. So now we have a rectangle. Now again, I do want to show this just because it is kind of important. You can change the directions of them, and if you turn them on, now we have a wall this way. Of course, this wall also extends underground. So we got to keep that in mind while we're making stuff. And then the last one we got is the tube projector. Pull the card out of here. Put the card in here. And we turn it on. Oh, and now we have a tube. It looks bad. It looks like I'm now screwed and I can't actually turn it off, but it's actually a tube. You can get in through the top. Now these settings are the radius, which is how wide it is, the length, which is how tall it is. So if we turn this on, we see that it's much farther away and much taller. Now this setting, the center setting, if I flip this sideways, it's easier to see. So if we turn it on, we can see that it extends this way and that way. But if we switch this over to front, we turn it on, we see that it starts here and goes that way. But it's the same distance as when it was centered, it goes that way. It just doesn't go that way. Which is kind of useful. I could definitely see a use for that. Now, another interesting little thing. We can have multiple cards and multiple projectors running simultaneously. In fact, we can see that the projectors counteracted each other here. So this is where, like this wall here is that projector, but the curl over here is the other projector. And where they crossed, they counteracted each other. So now we have like this little doorway kind of thing. So you can have multiple projectors running at once and combined in all kinds of different ways to make all kinds of different shapes. So you just have to be creative with it. Now, on to the really cool stuff. We have all of the different upgrades. Reactor... Well, we'll cover that one later. We'll cover the reactor containment field shortly. We'll put that aside for now. We'll put these all away. And then we'll cover all of these upgrades. Now, let's start by going over exactly what these force fields, what attributes of these force fields are. Well, first attribute is you can see through it. Hi, sheep. Second attribute is I can stand on it. and not take damage. So it's acting like it's a solid block. Third attribute is that while it's going into the ground, it's not destroying the ground. And fourth attribute is that it's actually going into the ground. So that's kind of important. So let's start playing with some of these upgrades. We got this one here, which we'll use a block of dirt for an example. If we put this in here, we get an OK. So what does that mean? It means that now we have a camouflaged force field. It looks just like dirt. You can't do this with every block, but you can do it with a lot of blocks. Like, for example, you can't put one of the upgrades in there. It gives this kind of like error texture kind of thing. Kind of looks like inverted bedrock. Yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. It looks like inverted bedrock to me. I don't know exactly, but that's kind of what it looks like. But you'll know when it works because it will actually say OK right here. That's how you'll know it's accepted. And that when you turn it on, it'll work. Okay. So let's get rid of that. And we lost our block of dirt, in case anybody was curious. So be careful when you pop stuff like that. So let's go with this upgrade, this Zapper upgrade. I love this upgrade. This is a great upgrade. We turn this on, and it turns red. I never noticed this before. I never noticed that it turned red before. But if we touch it, we get injured. Ow. There are no settings for it. You can't right-click on it. But it definitely injures you. Let's do a test. Let's take off my immortality armor. Let's turn this on. How fast do I take damage? Whoa! Very fast. I'm even set to peaceful, and that took half my health with just 2 hits. Holy crap. Okay, be very careful with this particular upgrade. Pretty much is going to kill anybody. It can very easily kill you as well, so just be careful. Next upgrade is the water upgrade, but we'll skip that for a moment. We'll go to the dome upgrade. Okay, now, if we turn this on, looks exactly the same. But it actually does not go underneath anymore. And that's because thanks to the dome upgrade, it stops at the same exact level as the block that's emitting it. So that's useful if you want to make, like, say, a rounded roof. You know, improvise a quick rounded roof, or you want underground access, or something like that. So, pretty neat trick. Then this is the block cutter upgrade. Now be very, very careful with this upgrade, because anything that it touches goes bye-byes. Now I also noticed that it's touching this and it's not making that go bye-byes, but it's making the dirt go away. So that means that this won't affect other projectors. Will it affect other, like if we put, say, an upgrade here? Will it affect that? No. Okay. How about another industrial craft block, like the, yeah, the HV transformer will work as a nice test. Put that right there. Boink. No, it does not. So it doesn't break all of the blocks, but it breaks normal blocks like dirt and stone, and I've done it with wood before. I'm sure there's a lot of things that'll cut through, so probably more of the basics more basic blocks, but the advanced stuff, it doesn't seem to break. And then the last upgrade we have is the underwater upgrade. Now, so far this does absolutely nothing. Well, that's because I would assume an underwater upgrade would require water to test. So, let's put in a quick pond, and I'll be right back. So here we have this nice little tiny pool of water. Just simple pool of water. Not very deep, but doesn't need to be for the instructions. So if we turn on the force field with just the force field, no upgrades, what happens? Well, it pushes the water out of the way. Okay, and when we turn it off, we just have flowing water because it destroys those water blocks. Now, if we attach the underwater upgrade, we get all the water goes away. Any water between the force fields goes away. My guess is that the general idea for this is to use this one, the area projector, to build, say, an underwater city. Something like, Stargate Atlantis, that sci-fi TV series where they had the shield that kept the water out. That, basically. That's what I'm thinking. You know what? Somebody needs to get on that because that would actually be kind of cool. You have this flooded city. You dive down, you flip a switch, and then all of a sudden you have a perfectly dry city. That would be cool. Okay, anyways. So, that covers most of the projectors and all of the upgrades. Now, there's one other projector, and that is the Reactor Shield projector. And that's that one up there. Now, there's a reason it's up there and not, like, tucked in down here like I would normally tuck it in. And that's because it doesn't work anywhere else except up there. Believe me, while I was testing this out, trying to figure out how all this works, I blew up pretty much the entire area and had to recover from backup. So you got to be very, very careful. Now, this one is not attached. Because I popped it during information. So let's get rid of this. I do not have a spare card, so let's get another card. Let's run over to our core. And then let's run back here. Attach it. Okay, so now that we have that, we can just turn it on, and then we can see that it's pretty much wide enough to cover only the reactor. And that's it, nothing else. And of course this begs the question, will it protect the reactor? I mean, it's freaking touching the reactor. If the reactor goes, there can't be that much protection involved. And it destroyed my lava pit, so... But that's okay, because we're going to pop this stuff anyways. Because we don't want the cooling for this particular test. So, I'm going to have to do this quick, because this will overheat quick. So we turn that on, and then we back off. And we wait and see what happens. That reactor should have blown by now. I don't hear anything. Is it outputting power? Find me an MFSU. Yes. See, none of these are pointing anywhere. That would give it power. No, the only possible place we can get power is from the reactor. There it goes. That just took a lot longer than it should have. Okay, let's see. What damage did we do? Alright, we took out everything underneath. The reactor force field is still fine. Oh wow, did we? Cool. Because the dirt blocks were there, that's why these four survived, because that's where the lava pit was, and that's where the force field was able to go. But because there was dirt around the lava pit, the force field wasn't there, which allowed the explosion to go through. Plus, where the wire came from came out here, and that's why the explosion went off in this direction. Okay. So that's why we ended up with this really, really strange blast pattern. I have... Oh! And that's why it took forever to actually explode, because there was leftover ice in it. Okay. Now we understand what happened. Now we understand why. Alrighty. And then at this point, there is one question left to ask. And that is, how much power do these things take? If we look in here, we can see that it's flickering. Of course, it's flickering really, really quick. If we turn this off, the force field stays up because there's still power left over. We can see how much power is going out. So if we get an EU meter, one of those. Nope, it's not going to let me see. The only way we can tell what kind of power it's using is if we measure how much power is going into it to regenerate, which isn't a lot. I mean, we're talking 1.8 max, it seems. Yeah. So, let's see, which one is on? The one over here is on. So let's turn that off. Let's crank this up. The whole way, as high as it will go. Turn it on. Does it take more power? Well, that's a yes, but not much. I mean, 5.33, 6.4. I mean, we're still talking minute amounts of EU. Alrighty. That doesn't take nearly as much power as I thought it would. Well, now that we know that it doesn't take that much EU, I mean, one force field generator running at full power, it was taking 7 EU per tick, max. I guess the next logical question is, if you're hitting it, does it take more EU? Well, to do that, I'm going to need help. Here we are on my test server. And I've got Sid with me. He's going to help me try to figure out if we can determine if there is a difference in the EU. Right now, we're getting a buttload of fluctuation with how much it takes. Now, I think I saw the minimum it took was like 8 EU, and the max was 28. So we got a fluctuation of about 20. And if Sid starts pounding on it, we really can't tell. There we go. It still fluctuates too much. Any kind of change is getting lost in the noise. Oh, we got one that went down to 0.11 EU per tick. Yeah, screw this. Let's see if a nuke can make a spike in the noise. Okay, we got a nuke going. Oh, there we go. That was a spike. 2464.27 EU per tick. So yes, that covers it. The force field takes more juice the more it's pounded on. Just when you just simply punch it, it wasn't using enough juice to get past the margin of error. So I think that pretty much covers it. Thank you, Sid, for joining me. And I think that's it for this episode. I shall see you guys in the next episode.